handed the cookies to Romeo and told him Juliet wanted to give them to him the previous day after he collected them. She told him she was going to get ready for Juliet's birthday party. Romeo tasted the cookies after she left and cried because of how good they tasted. He then asked Tsuket if she was interested in crashing Juliet's party like they did every year, and she said yes. Later Juliet went to see Kate, the White Cat's student representative, but before she could tell him why she'd come, a student burst into the room and informed them that the black doggies had invaded the dorm. Immediately Juliet tried to go see what was happening, but Kate stopped her, saying she was their target, so it was best she stayed away. Downstairs, Romeo and his pie-wielding game demanded that Juliet show herself, but Scott suddenly showed up with some White Cat students who were also being pies. This led to an intense pie-throwing fight, but Romeo didn't join in and went upstairs to look for Juliet. Since he was unfamiliar with the White Cat dorm, he had no idea where to go, and as he was looking around, Somali jumped down and grabbed him. This made him realize that Abi was close by, but when he looked up, all he saw was a red-haired hobo. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the hobo was Abi, so he asked what happened to him. Abi explained that after his deception was uncovered after the sports festival, he was kicked out of the dorm and has been living in the yard sink. Then he said he was going to catch Romeo and deliver him to the White Cats so that they would let him move back in. Romeo wasn't worried about him since he was a weakling, but he was concerned that he wouldn't be able to break free from Simia's tit grip. However, when he remembered that the girl was crazy about Abi, he used that against her. He told her that Abi was seething with jealousy because of how tightly she was holding him, and the dumb girl believed him. It didn't help that he acted very sus either, so he tried to escape him. Kate went after him and told him that Juliet was in the corner room on the 4th floor. Romeo asked why he was helping him, and Kate said it was because he enjoyed playing games. He said Romeo's little pie game was a breath of fresh air and he wanted to be a part of it. Just then CRA and a group of White Cat students arrived and Cyber scolded Kate for toying with Romeo. Kate complained that she'd ruined his fun and introduced himself to Romeo as the White Cat representative. C then advised Romeo to surrender as he would get past them, and Kate added that if he tried to resist, things could get messy. Meanwhile, Julia tried to force the door of the room she was locked and open, but she couldn't. However, her determination to see Romeo was strong, so she decided to escape the room through the window. Back on the 3rd floor, Romeo was getting beat out of him by Kate, but that didn't stop him from trying to get past him. Suddenly he charged at Kate and threw his blazer in his face, but Kate ate it away. He told Romeo that his little tricks wouldn't work, but Romeo smiled and asked him to look down. When he did, he discovered that his legs had been tied with a belt. Seeing that Kate was distracted, Romeo ran towards the window and jumped out of it. Everyone thought he was crazy, but they had no idea that Gillette was waiting on the 4th floor balcony, so when Romeo jumped out of the window, she caught him. By the time Stop looked out the window, Romeo was gone, which surprised him as he had no idea where he'd gone. At the same time, the twins burst into Er's office and informed him that the first years had gone to crash Juliet's party on the balcony of the White Cat dorm. The star-crossed lovers talked, and Juliet told Romeo about how she got to the balcony from the window. This made Romeo scold her, saying what she did was dangerous, but Juliet argued that he was the one doing something dangerous by barging into her dorm. She then started crying as she told him that she was worried something bad would. Immediately she let go of Romeo and lashed onto Abi, allowing Romeo to run up the stairs to the 3rd floor. There he met more White Cat students who tried to grab him, but he was pulled into the roof by Kate. Romeo didn't trust Kate, and happened to him once his brother found out what he did. Romeo consoled her and said he came because he wanted to wish her a happy birthday. This made her tell him that he was the dumbest person she knew, as his reason was very stupid and not worth the risk he took. As she continued sobbing, she admitted that she loved, and Romeo started crying because of it. However, he hugged her tightly. They then went downstairs and put on an elaborate show by slapping each other in the face with PS, after which they announced that the fight was a draw. Unfortunately for them, Arid chose to reappear at that moment, and he made a beeline for Romeo, only stopping once they were face to face. He then asked Romeo in the White Cat he was colluding with was Juliet. The question was so unexpected that Romeo and Juliet weren't sure how to respond. Aru listed out all the clues that convinced him that Romeo and Juliet were not, causing all the students to begin murmuring among themselves. Gillette said all those things didn't mean anything, so Arrow pulled out the bra and showed it to everyone. He'd assured her that confirming her size would prove he was right. Immediately the room erupted in shouts, most of them directed at Romeo, but Kate decided to intervene. He told Aru there had to be a logical explanation and then asked Julia to accompany him to his office so she could tell him her side. When began pulling Romeo away, he became afraid that everything he worked so hard to achieve With Juliet was going to end deciding to face everything head-on, he turned around to say something to Juliet. Suddenly a sword came flying towards him, so he caught it and looked up to see that Juliet had another sword. She asked him to draw the sword and said she was going to duel against him to restore her honor. Everyone including Romeo was surprised, but Juliet was dead serious, and before Romeo could talk her out of it, she attacked him. Romeo refused to attack and kept defending himself, causing Era to say that their fight was a farce. Romeo soon realized that Juliet was serious about the duel, and when she said she was finding him to protect who she was, he recalled the moment she told him she loved him. It also made him understand that if they didn't fight for real, neither of them would achieve their goals, so he decided to get serious. Juliet pointed at her chest and told him that if he missed she would take his life. Romeo also did the same and told her to give it her best shot, making those around them worried. The next attacked each other. It was clear they didn't have a relationship. Ruru and Kate then ordered everyone to return to their dorms, saying that they would be allowed to see their friends the next day. Soon after they all left, Romeo and Juliet sat up in their beds and pulled out their broken rosaries. Juliet said she was glad that Romeo understood what she wanted him to do when she pointed at her chest. It so happened that when she pointed at her chest, it was a signal for Romeo to aim his sword at her rosary. Juliet then started crying, and when Romeo asked what was wrong, she admitted that she'd been scared they were going to be separated. This made Romeo pull out the rings he had in his pocket. He said it was her moment. They charged at each other, shocking everyone when both swords struck their chests. Later that night, as Romeo and Juliet lay asleep in the infirmary, Maru and the others sat outside. Maru said that with the way they birthday gift and explained that it was a sort of promised ring. He said he would try to become a prefect so that he could change the way the school was run. After putting the ring on her finger, he asked if she would wait for that day to come. In response to his question, Julie hugged him and said she would wait.